Kia ora! Welcome! Today I'm going to be showing you how to wet felt soap. I thought this would be a really great project because we've been talking an awful lot about soap recently and how important it is to wash your hands really well. So I thought soap would be a great project for us to do. So what is wet felting? Well, wet felting is the process of turning wool fibers, like this, into felt, like this. We can't see them without a microscope, but wool fibers have scales called cuticle cells. When wool fibers are laid over top of each other and then agitated back and forth, this makes these little barbs in the cuticle cells hook together, creating a bond or a giant tangle of fibers that can't easily be undone. And this is what creates felt. So for our project today, you're going to first need some wool. And so this is wool roving. I got it from Lindy Chinnery's Handwoven Designs here in Lawrence, but you can get it from any craft store. If you can't find wool roving, what you can find might be just roving yarn. And this will work, but you're going to first need to unspin it so it no longer looks like yarn. So, but wool roving. And wool roving is essentially a long bundle of unspun wool fiber, and it can be spun into yarn or used for other textile projects. It doesn't just have to be made into felt. So you need some wool roving. The next thing you're going to need is some soap. Whatever soap you want can work. It doesn't have to be a specific kind. It is helpful though. So this one might not be a good one because it's got this little bump on the top. I think that's really cute. So you want fairly rectangular or square soap, especially when you're first starting out. It's a lot easier if you have just a simple shape to work with. So soap. You're also going to need some bubble wrap. And if you don't have bubble wrap, that's okay. You can also use a nylon stocking or even an old sock. So this is going to be used to agitate your wool fibers. So anything that can provide agitation. And finally, you're going to need some hot water. So you want this to be as hot as it can be, but you don't want it to be so hot that it burns yourself. So this should just be water out of your tap. Don't boil water or anything like that. Just water out of your tap, and you should be able to touch it comfortably. If it's too hot, then add some cold water. Don't hurt yourself. To get started, you're going to want to take your wool roving and hold it in one hand and then gently pull with the other to get these thin, wispy little pieces. And these little pieces are called drafts. And you're going to take the drafts and you're going to overlap them so they're just one slightly overlapping the other. And you're just going to keep doing that until you have enough wool to wrap your soap. So this is going to take a little while. It's fun because it's a bit destructive. You can even experiment with colors. So mine is a bit tie-dyed, so I've got some blues. I also have some purples, so I can switch colors, see if I can make a little design. Just always taking your drafts, slightly overlapping them. Once you have a sizable piece, you want to check and see if it's big enough to cover your entire soap. I'm just going to lightly check. Will it cover the soap? It will, I think. So that's great. So the next step is to do the exact same thing, except instead of going this direction from left to right, we're going to start crisscrossing across. So we want it to be like creating those hooks. Hello, Wednesday. We have a kitty here. So we want to be getting those hooks of the cuticle cells hooking together whenever we start to agitate it. So we need to encourage it to do that by having some wool going the opposite direction. So exact same thing, just slightly different direction. So I'm about done with all of my crisscrossing, but it's really good to kind of hold it up and see if you've missed any spots. So there's some sections here, especially, and around the edges that I probably should add some more wool roving to. So I'm going to do that now. And so now I can crisscross in the opposite direction as I do that. So now I'm going to check again and just see, make sure I've got enough wool. Looks like it'll cover quite nicely. And I'm going to check and make sure there's no gaps again. Yep, I think I'm good. So now I'm going to just wrap it up like a present. So I'm going to fold it over once on one side, once on the other, and then fold over two edges. Make a nice little parcel. I do have some areas there on the edge, so I'll have to be careful of that. I might need to add some more. Wool to that as I'm working on it, but we'll see how we go. So the next step, you're going to take your bubble wrap or your old sock or your old nylon stocking, whatever you're using to agitate, and you're going to also take your hot water. So this wool is just naturally water resistant, so not waterproof. It just, if you take some water and you drip it on top of wool, it'll bead up before soaking in. So we're going to do that a couple times. And you can rub it in very gently with our hands. So we want the wool to start to get wet. Flip it over and do the same on the other side. Just want all the water to soak into the fibers. It can be good to have a towel for this as well. The good thing is it's just water and soap, so it will clean up quite easily, even if you do make a bit of a mess. Again, you can see it's starting to look pretty damp on that side, but you can also see where I maybe didn't add enough wool, so I can go back and add that now. You can see there's quite a lot of wool on this side, but not much on this side and around these edges. So I'm going to stop for a second, dry off my hands with my towel, and add some more wool roving to that side. And you'll want to do this pretty early on, because if you wait too long and get really far into the agitation process, then you won't be able to add more felt. It won't have anything to connect to. We're just going to start gently rubbing the soap. So it's really helpful to think of it like just rubbing a bunny, a soft little bunny. Feels a bit like a soft bunny too. Just gently rubbing it. And we want to start out slow, because if we agitate it really hard to start with, then the fibers will just become a huge mess. So we want to go slow and then start to speed up and create more agitation once those fibers start to knot up and those tight little bonds that we were talking about. And this one aside, yours will probably look like this too. This one looks a bit like a wrinkly dog, and that's normal. So you can actually wet felt without soap. So you don't have to wet felt onto soap. The thing that I made earlier, find it real quick. So I got my star. So this I made just by the star I made just by taking, instead of soap and wrapping it up, I just kept the wool roving, had it sort of in a star shape, and then I started agitating with my fingers. You do still use a bit of dish soap to create this, to help make it the fibers all slippy, but you don't need a whole bar of soap for it. And another thing you can do as well is you can create little tiny balls which can then be turned into beads, and that's by taking a bunch of wool roving and then just doing this with some water and a little bit of soap. So those are two things that you can try if you once you've done a soap. So now that it's been worked into a bit of a lather and our fibers are starting to come together, now we can ramp it up a notch by agitation. So I'm going to fold over my bubble wrap. And I'm just using this towel. You don't need a towel, but I thought it might be good because it's a bit messy with the water. And we're just going to start to agitate. Just rub your fingers all around the outside of the soap. So the bubbles in bubble wrap are providing more agitation, and however much you rub it also helps. So it's very helpful to have something, like I said, like bubble wrap or a sock or something to help you agitate. And as we get all sudsy, your hands are going to be very clean at the end of this. As it gets all sudsy, then we know that it's starting to work. After about 5 to 10 minutes of agitating with the bubble wrap, check the soap and see if it looks like this. The felt should be pretty tight against this bar of soap. You shouldn't have any of those lumps like we had before. And if you pinch it, the fibers shouldn't be coming up in individual strands. You can see there's a little bit of individuality there. So I could agitate it a bit more if I wanted to. But if you've got lots of individual strands, then you definitely want to continue agitating. Once you're happy with your felting, then run it under a cold tap for just a couple seconds just to get all the extra soap off. And then stick it in a warm place like outside if it's a sunny day, or a windowsill to dry. And drying, it really depends on the day, but it can take from 1 to 2 days to dry. When your soap's done drying, you can just use it like a normal bar of soap in your bathroom. The great thing is that the felt works as a nice exfoliation, and it also helps the soap last longer. So this bar of soap that you've wet felted should last longer than your normal bar of soap. And whenever you're done, you'll end up with something that kind of looks like this. So a nice little hard piece of felt. So I just use it as a scrubby. You can use it as a scrubby for pans, you can use it as a scrubby in the shower, or you can actually cut it open and create like a little coin, tiny little coin pouch for toys or whatever. So that is how you wet felt soap. Thanks for making with me today. Bye!